Welcome to Lola's new series, Basic Economics with Holly Jean. I'll be breaking down popular economic topics through the lens of liberty and free markets. So get ready for clear and engaging insights into today's most pressing economic issues. And be sure to show your support by subscribing, giving us a thumbs up, and engaging in the comments so we can continue to create more content like this. Donald Trump is back with a bold plan: massive tariffs on imports. He's proposing 60% tariffs on Chinese goods and a 10 to 20% blanket tariff on all imports. But economic evidence shows us that tariffs create barriers to economic growth. Here's why. The first problem with tariffs is that they ignore one of the most important and fundamental laws in economics, the law of comparative advantage. Comparative advantage is an economy's ability to produce a particular good or service at a lower opportunity cost than its trading partners. All this means is that there are high costs in producing everything ourselves. Economist Thomas Sowell explains this best in his book, Basic Economics. He says, the key to understanding international trade is the basic economic reality of scarcity. In simple terms, scarcity means we only have so much time, so much labor, and so many resources at our disposal. High tariffs ignore the fact that it can be cheaper for U.S. businesses to trade internationally and more expensive to trade domestically. When the government raises the cost on you to trade internationally, that means that those opportunities for you to expand your business, hire labor, or make investments for your business to grow, those opportunities will now be foregone. That's why economists like me study the opportunity cost. What is the next best thing you could have been doing if you didn't have to pay for the expensive price of tariffs? When countries are able to specialize in what they do best and trade with others, both parties to the exchange benefit, and it allows us to get a wider variety of goods at lower prices than if we tried to make everything ourselves. Therefore, trying to produce everything domestically in the name of protecting U.S. jobs is not economically advantageous. It's an economic myth. Now let's look at what Trump's tariff policies will cost Americans. The majority of economists agree Americans will bear the brunt of these tariffs. One study shows us that a 10% across-the-board tariff combined with the 60% tariff on China could cost a typical U.S. household more than $2,600 a year, according to the Peterson Institute. Another study by Moody's Analytics projects that Trump's tariffs plan would result in 675,000 U.S. job losses and raise the unemployment rate by 0.4%. Some economists are warning that if Trump increases tariffs as he has proposed, the economy would likely suffer a recession soon thereafter, because there are 14 million jobs that rely on trade. Many experts say that Trump's tariffs will act like a new national sales tax. This is because the cost of the tariffs will be passed on to American consumers. Studies have shown that when tariffs are applied, the full cost is added to the price of goods in the U.S. It's the American people that end up paying the majority of it, not foreign companies. Another study found that Trump's tariffs could raise taxes by $524 billion annually and shrink the economy by 0.8%. Historically, tariffs have always raised prices and reduced the availability of goods for both consumers and businesses. This leads to lower income, fewer jobs, and less economic growth. Study after study, estimate after estimate are showing us that there are unintended consequences that come with trade barriers. And one thing remains clear: the tariffs don't hurt foreign companies, they hurt U.S. consumers. Therefore, tariffs are a government knows best policy. Government knows better than you who you should trade with, how much it should cost you, and in what quantities you should trade with them. As J.D. Vance summarizes it, tariffs penalize importers, aka Americans, from bringing goods from other countries into the U.S., and it's a necessary thing. But it is not the government's role to tell you who you should be able to trade with and make it more costly for you should you decide to trade internationally. But it's this government knows best framework that shapes bad economic policies. If Trump's tariff policies go through, we can expect an increase in both the production and consumption cost of Americans, a reduction in US jobs, higher household costs, and retaliation from our trading partners, which can lead to a global trade war. But it's not all bad news. Trump's plan to cut corporate taxes from 21% to 15% could help ease some of the supply chain issues we've been stuck with after COVID. However, the benefits of tax cuts will likely be offset by the cost of his costly tariff policies, especially for middle and lower income Americans. The sad reality is his policy proposals have a 3 steps forward and 2 steps back approach to economic growth. In the end, free trade and liberty go hand in hand. Arguments against free trade are arguments against individual liberty. Even George Fitzhugh, an individual who despised free trade, said this: "Admit liberty to be a good, and you leave no room to argue that free trade is an evil, because liberty is free trade." The reality is clear. Countries that are open to trade and investment tend to see long-term economic growth and higher living standards, while countries that rely on high tariffs and trade restrictions distort their economies and stunt their growth. Tariffs never make goods cheaper, only free trade can.